Hello there, duelists. Today I'm taking another look at a control deck, and this week we've got Spellbooks on the playmat. Spellbooks were kind of one of the first decks that I got that were a control variant. I was much more of a beatdown guy, and before kind of like the synchro era, and then after that I've kind of tended to err towards the side of the combo decks. I just kind of find that playstyle a bit more interesting. Spellbooks have been out for ages now and kind of hit their heights with Spellbook of Judgement, which is an absolutely broken card, and you know when they were rivaling kind of the Dragon Lords. However, they have taken a bit of a fall from their grand tower since then. However, they can still put together quite an interesting control-based strategy, and you know, maybe prophesise your opponent's defeat. Alright, so let's open this book up. Let's start off with the spells. So, first up, Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, or Little Blue. So when he's normal or flipped up, you can add a spellbook card from your deck to your hand. So he's, again, our starter, and you kind of want to see him or his thing that searches this card. And from there, we've got Jowgen the Spiritualist. So you can discard one random card from your hand to the graveyard, destroy all special summon monsters, and neither player can special summon. So this is kind of like your win condition almost, and kind of your lockout. So you know, the fact your opponent can't special summon. Most 99% of decks revolve around special summoning, even the control variants. So this guy shuts a lot of stuff down. From there, I'm playing two High Priestess of Prophecy. Again, I think some people tend to cut this, but I think this deck, you know, kind of gives it a bit of a timeline in terms of, you know, you get out Jowgen or whatever, or you get out High Priestess and then get out Jowgen in the same turn or whatever, and then, you know, your opponent's on the clock then. And then finally we've got three Effect Veiler. Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if we need to mention what the actual summoning conditions of High Priestess is. So basically she can reveal 3 spellbook cards in your hand, special summon the card, and then you can banish a spellbook card from the graveyard to pop a card on the field. And then Effect Veiler, which, you know, you could be any other hand trap, but it synergizes quite well because it's a spellcaster, which means that some of our effects are more active just by the Effect Veiler. And again, you could probably bump up the Effect Veiler. You could choose to take out the High Priestess if you showed, you know, if you decided that was the way you want to go. Right, and then the main event is the spells. So first up, we've got 3 Spellbook of Secrets in varying rarities. So again, this is just add 1 spellbook card from your deck to your hand, except itself, and you can only activate it once per turn. So this searches, you know, your Little Blue, which then searches something else. You know, it's just a good way of thinning the deck, get stuff out. I mean, this is one of the first decks that I got that was just a ridiculous amount of search. It doesn't tend to get to that much, but the fact that you get so much, and it's useful to have stuff engraved. So then we've got kind of the newest spellbook, which is Pot of Knowledge. So send either a spellbook card from your hand or a spellcaster type monster from your field to your graveyard to draw 2 cards. So this conflicts with a little bit of stuff, you know, other cards that we've got in the deck, but it's still, you know, you really want the draw engine. And then we've got 3 Spellbook of Fate. So this can, well, you've got control spellcaster type monster for a start, and then it depends on how many spellbook cards you've got in the graveyard in order to which effects you can activate. So if you've got 1, you can turn a spell trap card on the field to the owner's hand, which doesn't come up that often. 2, you can flip a monster face down, which can mean that you can flip down your Little Blue, but the most common one is 3. So you've got to banish 3 cards, 3 spellbooks from your graveyard to banish 1 card on the field, and that's non-targeted, so it's great. And this is kind of like your disruption in the spellbook form. From there, we've got some of the other spellbooks which don't tend to run at 3, just because, you know, the accessibility of each of your spellbook cards is quite high, so you can pick the ones that you need at the optimum moment. So we've got 2 the Grand Spellbook Tower. So once per turn during your standby phase, if you've got spellcaster type monster on your field or in your graveyard, which is where the Effect Veiler kind of comes in, you can shuffle or place a spellbook card from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck, and you get to draw a card. And then if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a spellcaster type monster from your hand or deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of spellbook cards in your graveyard, which again doesn't tend to come up. And again, I think most of the people who are playing, like, you know, back row disruption, you know, like Cosmic Cyclone tends to get rid of this and it won't go off. So, you know, it's still a reasonable effect, but it doesn't come up nearly enough. And then 2 Spellbook of Eternity. So this is basically you can target a banished Spellbook and return it to your hand. You can activate 1 per turn. And then you've got Spellbook of the Master. So this is kind of the one that copies stuff. So you can activate it, target a normal Spellbook card in your graveyard, and the effect becomes that. It's a bit sad because you've got to control a spellcast type monster, so you can't just like loop without monster effects, but because Secret searches little blue, it's actually okay. And then a couple of one-offs, running Spellbook of Power, which increases spellcast type monster's attack by 1,000, and then if it destroys something by battle you get to search, which is great. And then 1 Spellbook of Life, which doesn't come up that often, but occasionally you just kind of need that recursion. So you banish a spellcast type monster from your graveyard, and then reveal another Spellbook card in your hand to target another spellcast type monster. Yeah, it's a complicated opening condition. It comes up quite often, you know, it's not difficult to meet that criteria. And you get to special summon that monster, and then the level is added together. I mean, again, that never comes up on, is never really that relevant. So that's all the kind of spellbook cards that I'm running. Again, for a long time I was running Spellbook of Wisdom and stuff like that, but it just doesn't come up anymore. There's just not really any reason to run them. But maybe besides names. From there, we're running 3 Power of the Guardians. So this card is kind of your way of protecting Jowgen the Spiritualist. So if an attack is declared involving the equipped monster, you place a counter on it, and it gains 5 of the attack. And then if the equipped monster will be destroyed by anything, you can remove that spell counter instead. So you can make Jowgen pretty big and pretty beefy if you can get a lot of counters on him, and it's just that way of protecting him from being destroyed. I mean, again, obviously there's other ways of getting around it, and in the common game now there's much more variety in terms of, you know, removal, but this is, you know, it's a good way of, you know, cutting off at least some of the options that your opponent has. From there I'm running 3 Pot of Extravagance, which again you could choose to cut out and replace with, I don't know, you could run Pot of Desires for example, or you could, I mean, for a while I had Upstart Goblin, Monster Reborn, and then Spellbook of Wisdom. So again, you have some options. You don't need to run this, or you could choose to, you know, run another Pot of Duality as well. So, you know, Pot of Extravagance, you banish 3 or 6 from your extra deck face down, and then draw either 1 or 2 cards. You have to activate that at the start of your main phase, and also you can't draw cards for the rest of the turn. Pot of Duality doesn't conflict with that because Pot of Duality adds cards. However, the Spellbook of Knowledge does conflict with it, so you've got to be a little bit careful. And again, Duality, for those who don't know, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and add 1 of them to your hand. You can't special summon the turn that you activate Pot of Duality. So that's it, round up the spells. We've got through the end of it. Okay, so onto the traps. It's fairly small, but I'm running 2 Solemn Judgments and 2 Solemn Strikes, kind of, well, my version of a Solemn Brigade. So, obviously Judgment, pay half, negate, summon, spell or trap card, and then Solemn Strike, 1500 to negate, you know, a special summon or a monster effect, and that's an inherent summon, so it's not like you can't stop a poly. So again, these are a really solid addition. I mean, again, you could choose to run more hand traps for Solemn Strike maybe, and increase the number of Solemn Judgments, because stuff like Harpy's Feather Duster is now floating around, which is obviously going to hurt this deck quite a lot. So again, it's entirely up to kind of personal preference and what you choose to tune the balance to be. And onto the extra deck. So we're running 15 random cards of your choice. So really, the only reason that we've got an extra deck at all is because we're playing Pot of Extravagance. However, you know, you could choose to, I mean, I've got Crowley the Prophecise maybe, or you could choose to run, you know, Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin for 2 little blues maybe, for example. Again, if you really want to bump the price up, you could run 3 Crystal and Halqifibrax, and then 3 Selene. So Halqifibrax would be with little blue, maybe an Effect Veiler. Selene would then summon out that Effect Veiler, and you could go to access code Talker. Obviously that makes the deck immensely more expensive, and I'm really not sure it's that necessary at all, but again, it definitely would put a clock on your opponent's turns. So I mean, again, if you wanted to, you could maybe throw these 3 in and throw 15 other random cards in, 12 other random cards, and I'd hope that you don't hit them. But again, I think, or if you're playing online, you know, go for it, knock yourself out. But I think, again, I think the extra deck is just not really worth considering in this build, and I haven't put it in the description below or in the pricing, just because I don't think it's you know, it's up to how you want to play the extra deck, should I say. Alright, so we've reached the end of this chapter of deck profiles, and what do we think? So, in my opinion, spellbooks were definitely the best with Judgment. I mean, I don't think there's any real contention for that. I don't think I'm rocking the boat by saying that, but I think if that came back to 1, I think that would make a huge impact on the deck. And I think it would definitely be, you know, far and away, you know, more relevant. However, I think going first, at the very least, this deck can definitely put up, you know, an interesting nut to crack, especially if you can get out Jowgen with Power of the Guardians. So I'm going to say a 3 for relevance. I don't think it's really realistically going to be winning anything other than a local, but, you know, it's not bad. In terms of fun factor, I would say that it's very, very linear. It's very control-based, it's very slow, it's also very lockdown-y. You're not going to find that many more interesting lines that you can play. So I'm going to go for a 2 for fun factor. In terms of cost, I think this deck is actually still quite expensive, which is a bit of a shame. So the extravagances obviously are adding about $50, which is not ideal, but not tragic, especially with the new reprint and stuff. But all in all, it's about $200, and that's without kind of like your access code package and stuff like that. So, what do you guys think? Let me know in your comments down below, and subscribe for more deck profiles.